So trying hard can often be the thing that holds us back the most. We're not robots, we're humans. So why don't we take advantage of that? This is the second half of rethinking success with mindfulness qualities. In the last session, we looked at how qualities such as awareness and calm and acceptance can help us navigate the day to day, showing up productively but sustainably. We ended with rethinking consistency. So, already thinking about how we can be more resourceful and think longer term and have higher impact over simply just grinding harder. Really, impact isn't from a day's output, it's from how we tie things together, how we influence people, and how we shape the bigger picture. So, we're going to build on these themes, exploring these pieces today, starting with finding the advantage in collaboration. The whole don't share your goals mantra for me is just completely bonkers. I kind of, get it if they're saying, don't shout about things that you're not then going to follow through. However, I think if we over glorify independence and isolation, then it can cost us the collaboration that we need to actually influence people. A lot of us love this idea of building things on our own terms for our freedom. But if we lock ourselves away to do that without real time interaction and feedback, then our efforts are going to be based on our own views and opinions. So you might find yourself feeling disappointed or alone or even behind because life is happening now. It doesn't wait for you to get to some invisible level that you want to get to. So I think we undervalue one thing that has made humans what we are, and that is that we're social creatures. Higher influence doesn't come from impressing people, it comes from nurturing our relationship qualities. And that starts with understanding. Mindfulness is amazing for this. The research is there. Meditation changes your brain for empathy, and empathy is an incredible skill for relationships and for leaderships. But if we think about it intuitively, you cannot be in touch with somebody else's emotions unless you are in tune with your own. So that self-observation that we learn through practicing mindfulness, that self-awareness that we grow, that really helps us learn about ourselves and in turn helps us learn about others. When I reflect on my own relationships, I don't love the word authenticity. It's a little bit overused, but they have become a lot more authentic because my behavior is no longer led by, my underlying fears, my need to come across certain ways or for people to accept me. There is this non-judging quality of mindfulness that we started to explore, and really growing this helps us make less assumptions. And that's really beneficial when it comes to people's intentions and their behaviors. Curiosity is the gap between listening to react and listening to actually understand. We have the foundations for really powerful connection with people. Connection is something that is just past logic and past words. It's a feeling. It's something that we cultivate when we practice being present with mindfulness. But when we can tap into that presence and that engagement with people, this is really where you start to see the power of collaboration. All of a sudden, 1+1 isn't 2, it's more. And you can see how the possibilities multiply when you work with people. We had this theme in the last video. It's important to remember that we are human individually, but it's also important to remember that together we are humans. And letting go of our egos can really open up the possibilities. So taking this a little bit further onto leadership, a lot of us go wrong with leadership by believing that it's a title. But the leaders that I valued the most aren't the ones that stepped out of collaboration to rule from above, because leadership isn't something that you take. It's something that people give you when they trust you. I think it's a natural extension of that collaboration that we've just looked at, upheld by other qualities that form our foundations as individuals that we've already started to talk about. So, for example, we introduced this quality of calmness and how that can really benefit us day to day. And actually, calm is the state that influences people. Think about the people that make you really on edge, right? And then think about the people that make you feel really calm. Our nervous system is built around human interaction. Try not to get too scientific, but your stress relaxation response that is built around human interaction, where we have learned how to determine when someone is a threat or when somebody is a friend. So it is our human evolution. We don't need to be super spiritual and talk about energies and frequencies to appreciate the impact of nonverbal communication through that system and the vibes that we can give off. And then the second quality to remind ourselves of is this idea of self trust. Early in my career, I remember asking a leader how they got up and spoke so easily in front of a crowd. And they told me, if you are genuinely confident, people will believe anything that you say. And that's not in this like, I'm right, arrogant, need to be in control way. It's in an honest relationship with themselves. And actually, it's really interesting how your credibility shoots up when you demonstrate that openness to just being wrong and not knowing everything. Credibility doesn't come from being right, it comes from being reasonable. People can see you trust yourself to let go of the control and rely on your resources and get the best out of the situation rather than let your ego lead. And then the final quality on this piece, something that I think is really rare in our fast paced world, is patience. If I review all of the feedback that I get from tutoring, every single time that comes up, patience. She was patient with me. You can have all of the credentials in the world, but it's patience that make people feel safe and they value feeling safe. Meditation is the ultimate practice for patience. And I don't mean just not reacting, sucking it up, not reacting, but genuine patience, practicing being here and not thinking about or wanting to be anywhere else other than just in that exact moment. So patience is what makes presence last. And it's something that we need to apply to our mindfulness practice to practice, but it's something we can also develop practice. And in the end, I think people follow presence. So leadership isn't taking control, it's actually letting go of it. Unfortunately, just because people tell us to believe in ourselves, it doesn't mean that we will. There isn't like a switch, right? I think that making some big move in your life and a big pivot is a really good learning experience. And, I massively recommend it. But if I reflect, how often do I take big risks? Not that often. We're told to take risks, but I think someone telling you that in itself is not enough for you to actually do something that you just don't feel safe doing. So we're not all big risk takers, but actually it can really help to balance boldness with care. There's a lot of value in building the foundations that's going to support our moves. So starting with confidence. That's not just a trait, that's buildable. And genuine confidence isn't pretending that you're not scared. It's getting comfortable with the uncertainty. So you can take a bottom up approach to this. I think that we're confident when we feel good. And if we think back to the last video, we explored this idea of optimal functioning, smarter work, adding in compassion and awareness and honesty in the way that we show up so we can preserve our energy and we can maximize our health. And it's those times that I feel most confident because things feel easier. So moves feel less big. And then, of course, the self awareness, when you have that and you really get to know your fears. And when you get to know your fears, you can see how you work with them. Actually, we often make a lot of our decisions just out of being reactive. So it's our unconscious fears and desires that are driving those. But it's really important to be able to proactively make decisions because it's our decisions that will tie together to create our lives. I spoke in a video talking about the biggest changes I'd seen in my life because of mindfulness practice and this idea about intuition. I think there's a lot of noise that stops us from trusting ourselves because we get so much input on what we should want and why we should be scared and what we should be scared of. So we get cut off from our intuition. Intuition is what is left when you let go of all of that and you learn to trust yourself again. It's something that goes beyond our thought, into our values, and makes our decisions a lot easier. So when people ask me, how can I have more conviction or how do I know that I've made the right choice? Well, you can't actually know. The actual certainty isn't available. And of course, there is this piece of deepening that non-judgment. So you come away from this fixation on wrong and right, because that's really just a construct. Actually, it's about a sense of certainty. So conviction isn't in being right. It's in trusting yourself to make decisions that represent your values and then trusting yourself to navigate anything that those choices are going to bring. When you learn to let go, cultivate connection and trust, confidence and clarity, kind of like the leftovers. They're just there. They're sitting there, just waiting. So finally on inspiration, think big is another term that's really popular in success or self-development. And, I'm here, I'm appreciating the small, the simple, the now, but I do have a great appreciation for being long-term and being strategic. I think that keeps us on track. And for me, that track isn't having fixed goals or direction. It's staying close to my priorities. And that's an approach to life that I've kind of settled into through my years of mindfulness practice. I do feel that vision is important. But what I love about mindfulness is that it helps us tap into that wide awareness with clarity. So it's like big picture with practical detail. It's not just some kind of ego dream. But what I think is as important as vision is not losing sight. As things move and change, you have to be dynamic. Sometimes I think this is the harder thing because we so easily get distracted and trapped into tunnel vision. We can't see the wood from the trees. And we talked about some of these kind of performance traps or identity traps. I have to use that quality of awareness to catch myself when I'm, setting myself meaningless targets or I'm really focusing on short term results. Or when it comes to kind of chasing identity, when I can see myself, trying to fit in. And it helps me step back and apply compassion and say, does this actually matter or are you just giving yourself a hard time? How does this relate to the bigger picture? We can keep coming back to the bigger picture and reminding ourselves what's important to us and what's true. And mindfulness is all about asking why, continually asking why. And I think that allows us to stay close to our priorities. It creates a long term approach while still being present. So we are who we are. We live the lives that we live when we start to appreciate the present and within that, our humanity and the qualities that we can nurture in that, I think things open up. We work with the now rather than pushing for something else. As I said before, it's about practice. You can't just watch the video, listen to the podcast. You have to apply. So again, I'm going to link the meditation series. If you want a bit of an introduction, that's going to be below the video. And there has been so much that we've tried to unpack across this topic and so much depth that we can go into. So make sure you subscribe because there's going to be future videos that really kind of zone into some of this stuff and getting the best out of mindfulness. Cool.